Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Rimshots with Sean, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk. We have another treat. My girl Raquel out on the West Coast, never disappoints. I have the gang from Sordes Dominum. We have Alex, we have Xander, we have Jordan. Welcome to the podcast, folks.
What's up? Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So I want to start. She sent me an awful lot of information and talking about the two EPs that you released. So you have Mortalis, Immortalis. One is kind of, we'll call it less slick. The other one is more slick. One's a throwback. One is, more modern, I guess is the layman's term. So Alex, give us the reasoning and the concept behind that.
Yeah, kind of what you said. Basically, Mortalis, the whole idea for this EP was to split it up into two different versions, the same songs. Mortalis is a kind of an old school vibe for the purists. It's there's no drum edits, there are no drum samples, there's no edits of any kind, and the mix and master is a little bit more conservative, and it's meant to give the listeners the raw sound of the band, like right off the console, right off the floor. And the other version is tightly edited, lots of drum samples, lots of edits, more orchestral arrangements, and it's basically just the hyped, larger than life modern version. In a nutshell, that's basically the idea behind it.
You had a great quote, and I was talking with somebody about this a couple of weeks ago, and the quote is basically, in the modern metal world, most productions are greatly inhuman sounding. And I was listening to, I can't remember which band it was, but, and Jordan, you'll appreciate this. It sounded like a drum machine. I knew it was a real drummer. It was so precise. It was so slick. I mean, it was so Pro Tooled to death. The human element almost wasn't there. And I'm guessing the yin and the yang between these two productions is what you're trying to highlight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially the younger generation, like we've been more accustomed to the modern sound of drums in metal, which not a lot of people realize how edited they are, how kind of mechanical they are. And it doesn't mean that a drummer can't sound like that live. It's just, it's very, very, very over edited. And, I've come to really like that sound. I also like the old school sound. So it's just whatever your flavor is, you can, for this record, you can choose either one.
And you've given, obviously, the listener, a good A and B kind of combo. Xander, I'm going to get to you in a second, but Jordan, as a drummer, I mentioned I'm a drummer. One of the first times I ever heard about drum punching in was, I believe, Ride the Lightning, when Metallica did that. Lars was playing to the quick track, and he would play and play and play, and then stop and punch in. How much of that did you do on, both of the two productions?
I think for the most part, some of the songs are pretty long, so it's there are times that sometimes, and there's like some empty space in between, so like you don't have to just sit there and wait, for a minute and a half, meanwhile nothing's happening. So like you'll just stop there and then punch in when the actual music comes back in. But I think the song that kind of like took the most was the last song, Infinitum. But the other three songs, for the most part, they were one take through, but a few times, and then just pick which one's the best one. Sometimes you mix in between the two, you take a little bit from this one and then this one, then just combine them together. But I don't know. I don't.
No, and I hear what you're saying, because I mean, a lot of people don't realize back in the olden days, but the 70s and maybe 80s. I mean, if you had a 4-minute or a 5-minute song and you screwed up at 4 minutes and 20 seconds, you might have to go all the way back and play it again. Now you have the luxury of maybe being able to punch in. Some people would call it cheating. I call it taking advantage of technology. And so I don't think there's any shame in it. And the material that you guys are doing, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, it's athletic in terms of ability. You guys aren't playing straight 2s and 4s and those types of things, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, like, the tempo, the meter changes in between the song. So right. The meter is always kind of like alive. So that's why sometimes it is hard to basically get only one take through. because the meter constantly changes. So meanwhile, when you're listening to the click, you're like, oh, oops,
Yeah.
this one's a little bit faster, this one's a little bit slower. But for the most part, it's after you practice the song and then you go to the studio and just do your job, basically. Just
So Xander, and I'm gonna say this because there's been a trend with some of the people that I've been interviewing over the last while, and it seems like in all forms of music, there's more ladies participating, and not necessarily in what you would call the, the common, I guess, thing. And then, I see you guys, and again, it's I don't know, the material is just how is it going over with the people?
Part of your question cut out there for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Say that
How's your
again.
material going over with the people? I mean, I heard it, and I'm not going to, it wouldn't be something I would necessarily listen to. I heard it right away, and I'm like, you know what? This is very cool stuff. How's it resonating with the people that you guys are making it for?
I think it's resonating quite well, actually. Because it has both kind of sounds, people that maybe would lean more toward, really being into live music and wanting to listen to vinyl more. They're going to like the raw stuff more. And some people have commented that way. Whereas, people that like modern, fast, technical stuff like that, they lean towards the other ones. So I think it's just going well. It's just kind of a matter of taste on who's listening to it.
And there seems to be, I don't want to say a trend because it's been going on for a while. And Alex, I'll throw this to you. The symphonic metal sort of genre really seems to, like in Europe, the last number of years it's been going on. But you go on a lot of these metal publications and online things, and there's a ton of that going on with, the more technical. It almost sounds like a Paganini wrote a heavy metal tune. It's, I guess I'll call it thinking person's music. How do you, I guess, is this a style of music you've been listening to for quite some time, or is it just something that you kind of happened upon in the last while?
Yeah, it's a style I've been listening to, I would say, my whole life. I started with classical and piano, so I've always had that taste for, I would say, the desire to create satisfying melodies, whether it be through any instrument really. But the symphonic part has come in mainly since we're an instrumental band. We're all a big fan of horror movies and orchestras and scoring and all that kind of larger than life big orchestra sound. So incorporating that into the music is, it's like a huge part of our personalities and our musical tastes. So
and again, I'm not, I guess I'm getting a little bit more privy to what's going on the West Coast, having spoken to a few people. But you guys seem to have a really neat scene where it's different sorts of music, but it really seems to be active and alive. Is that a fair statement?
yes.
I think so. I think after the 2 years of what that happened, I think things are starting to pick up. So there's a lot more shows, local shows, and like even small bars and bigger places. So good to see it that it's coming back finally.
And have you had the opportunity to showcase this material live yet?
No, we just booked our first gig. It's going to be in Salt Lake City for Crucial Fest. So that's going to be late August 26th. So that'll be our first show at this project. So we're looking forward to that gig and to continuing to book shows that might come our way for the rest of the year and onward.
So, Xander, I'll throw this to you. So there's three of you on stage, three of you in the band. The power trio is a big thing up here in Canada. We've always kind of been, part of that Rush, Triumph, different sorts of bands like that. How does it feel? I mean, you haven't played it live, but you're rehearsing it. You have to be on your toes all the time. Like, are you guys using tracks when you play? Or you plan on using tracks? Is it pretty much what you see is what you get? How's that coming about?
Well, yeah, we are going to use tracks for some of the scary sound symphonic stuff that we can't really do live. Other than that, we're pretty much, what you see is what you get, kind of, in regards to like guitar, bass, drums. I think we do maybe have to be a little bit more on our toes, since there is only three of us, and bass and guitar aren't always playing the same parts and things like that. But even we rehearsed previously to this and it flowed really well. So hopefully that just continues that way.
When I listen to the material, and I'll throw it over to whoever wants, I'll lob it out, whoever wants to ask. So I'll call it ambitious. I'll call it, athletic in certain parts. I'll call it not stock. It's not, again, not, your 2/4. Are you maybe a little nervous, or you're not nervous about when you get out there, how, forget about the crowd. We all know musicians are the people that sometimes cross their arms like this and stand in the back of the room, not wanting your success, but waiting for you to fail. You nervous at all about that?
Jordan?
Me personally, no, not at all. I mean, I'm very, very confident, and I'm very, well, I trust my teammates over here. So, I mean, in all honesty, I've been doing music because I love it. So, like, for the most part, like, you know what I mean? You're always going to have, I don't tend to think about the negative, because it's like, it's a given, you know what I mean? So it's like, we're just going to, do our thing, and whoever likes it, great. Whoever doesn't, I mean, great, awesome. But I'm doing it mostly for me, and doing it with two of my best friends. So for me, all that other stuff, like, actually, I don't really care about that much.
Well, and there was no right or wrong answer, but I love that answer, because I've always been of the opinion that if I'm sitting in the audience drinking a beer and watching you guys on stage, I have no room but to clap and be impressed with what you do, because I'm not up there doing it, right? There's no room for me to criticize, because you guys are doing it. I'm paying the price of admission to go in and watch. Conversely, you expect the same thing. So great answer. I love that. And I like the confidence. I get the confidence. So obviously no singer. How does this music, how are you able to, I guess, not even worry about, oh my gosh, how's a vocalist going to come in? Where's that melody going to come from? Does it kind of open up some things where you're not as inhibited to, maybe do things in a certain way because you have to work vocals in there?
Yeah. Since, we've all three of us, we've been in multiple different bands. So we have a lot of different experience with different genres and with all kinds of different singers and whatnot. So when we went into this project, we wanted to brand it right from the get-go as instrumental. So having those orchestral qualities, we're creating the melody and the hook with these instruments, with these strings, synths, choirs, horns. That is taking the place of what you would want from a vocalist. So we're just trying to let the music speak for itself, so that the main takeaway that you get after coming to see one of our shows is, wow, I didn't even miss that they didn't have, I didn't even mind that there wasn't a vocalist, because the music filled out on its own. So that's been our goal from the get-go.
That's great. You don't have to worry about that dreaded LSD, lead singer disease, where the singer doesn't feel like, showing up or whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's another pro of that.
So look, what we're going to do, we're going to wrap this segment. I want to come back, because there's a whole slew of things I want to cover. In particular, the concept behind this. And I'm reading off the assets that Raquel sent me, but I want you to give the audience a flavor for what it is. So we're going to be back after this.
Right on.